Joe Biden has dropped out of the race. He's no more the nominee of the Democratic Party, and he has endorsed Kamala Harris. We will talk about that, but before that, please subscribe to Khanversations, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this video with your social political network. This is a major development. Even though it was more or less expected for the last few days, there has been so much pressure on Joe Biden from his own party and from the polls and from the media, questioning every little statement that he made. Any error that he made was now being amplified on television, in talk shows, in blogs, on YouTube channels over and over again, and then added with the past errors that he was making. So he suddenly went from being an extremely competent, one of the best presidents of America, to suddenly a person who is incapable of putting together a couple of sentences or speaking coherently, far from being capable of actually governing the country. But this is unprecedented. It has not happened in recent history, and I can't recall, and I did some basic search. I couldn't find any such event since the primaries process really began, that an American presidential candidate, a sitting president, an incumbent after winning the primary, basically, has been forced out of the race. And please, I mean, lots of people are making a big deal of the fact that he has withdrawn and basically thrown himself under the bus in order to save American democracy or the Democrats. But the point really is that his own mistakes and the kind of things he was doing on television, in interviews, and the pressure from his party left him actually with no choice. He would basically, his choice was that either he drops out of the race or he takes the entire Democratic Party down with him. Those were the two choices. And so in that sense, you can say that he made a huge sacrifice of dropping out of the race. So this is unprecedented, a major turning point in American democracy, in the history of the Democratic Party. And there are going to be repercussions down the line, and it is quite possible that it may not be a very smooth transition. Joe Biden not only dropped out of the race, but he immediately endorsed his Vice President Kamala Harris to be the nominee of the Democratic Party. She is the front runner. She has over $250 million now in the coffers from the Biden-Harris campaign. She has name recognition, and it's possible that there are institutional barriers to anybody who tries to challenge her, but it's quite possible that there will be a kind of a contest at the convention in order to basically confirm her as shall we say, a legitimate contender on behalf of the Democratic Party, not someone who just benefited from the misfortune of Joe Biden. So we will see how that pans out, and the implications of that. If the Democratic Party chooses someone other than her, then there are also institutional barriers and legal barriers to that name even being on the ballot. So the Democratic Party and the American democracy is going through a period of trial. I have 5 takeaways. I haven't had much time to think about it, and I will be talking to a friend of mine in more detail about this in a few hours. But my 5 immediate takeaways with regard to this is that, number one, that it is unprecedented. It never happened before. And so we are in new territory. American democracy, the Democratic Party, this is new territory even for the opponents. So for a long time, Donald Trump had invested in destroying the image of Joe Biden, badgering him, the fundraising, the strategies, everything was against Joe Biden, and now he might have to start all over again. So the tabula rasa might not just benefit the new candidate, but may also have a disrupting effect on Donald Trump's campaign strategy. So we are into totally unprecedented territory, but it was quite remarkable to see how the media turned on Joe Biden. I will talk about it a little bit more, but that was my first takeaway, that this is something new. It is a moment for American democracy. It's a moment of trial, but it's also an opportunity for American democracy to transcend this crisis and evolve. And there are lots of flaws in American democracy at the moment, fundamental flaws, which I will point out in one of the takeaways. And this is an opportunity, I think, for Americans to rescue American democracy, not from Trump, but from the system itself. We talk a lot about rescuing democracy from the dangers of an authoritarian regime that Trump might create once he wins the election. But actually, even the system itself is not very democratic at the moment. The second point that takeaway that I have is that so far there has been a kind of a chaos. So we didn't know where we were going while Trump was benefiting from being able to target Joe Biden. The Democratic Party was like, what's going to happen for about 2 weeks now since the debate? Basically, there is infighting in the Democratic Party, and so no direction. So essentially, it's all chaotic. So American politics is in a state of chaos. But now there is more clarity, I think. And the clarity is that either Kamala Harris will be an automatic nominee, and it will be just a formality confirming her at the convention. And that's most likely to happen. And so we now know that it's most probably Trump versus Kamala Harris. And so becomes, at least we are back to normal politics in terms of the election campaign. The third takeaway that I have is the most troublesome one. And that is where I'm talking about trying to rescue American democracy from the American democratic system. So you must have heard of this concept a lot of times. These days, everyone is talking about the deep state, deep state, deep state. The deep state has done this, deep state has done that. So deep state is an imagination of that there is within the government apparatus, within the institutions, within the bureaucracies, a kind of a cabal, you could say, or shall we say, entrenched interests, which are not necessarily in the national interest, and which are also things that even the President of the United States cannot overcome. So there is a deep state now in every country which tries to take the country in a particular direction. It may serve either corporate interests or oligarchs in some countries. And so even when you get elected as president, you have to battle not just the opposition party, but also the deep state in order to get things done. But now it appears that there is a deep state in the Democratic Party, that there is an entrenched power base other than the Democratic DNC. So while the DNC and the president are supposed to be the leaders of the Democratic Party, there is a deep, I don't know what to call it, deep party, a deep party within the party. And we could hear the names that apparently all of this was being orchestrated by Obama and Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi is just a congresswoman, a former speaker, most definitely, but she clearly showed that she has far more power in the party than, even though she does not have a major position in the organizational hierarchy. Even the talk of Obama, as Biden himself is reported to have called Obama the puppeteer behind this entire internal conspiracy and momentum to basically ask him to leave. So the third troubling point is that there is a deep state in the political party. And I'm not talking about the government, that there might be another one there. So there is a deep party, a deep state within the party, and we saw its effects at this time. That the leader of the party, the president of the United States, could not push back against this powerful entity, which has basically dislodged. So Joe Biden, who everyone thought that Trump could never beat, was beaten by this deep state, forced to withdraw. It is, in my opinion, quite humiliating. I mean, people are coming up with all these statements to kind of make consolation remarks that, oh, he is the greatest president and all kinds of stuff. If he was indeed the greatest president this country would have, then he would not have been behind in the polls even before the debate. It was pretty clear even before the debates that he was lagging behind in key states, in key battleground states. And already, even before the first debate, there were lots of people pretty clear that Joe Biden was going to lose this election. And of course, his performance in the debates clearly sent a signal to everybody except his close allies that he was unfit to be president. So in that sense, trying to make a hero out of him for essentially doing something that he should have done actually at the beginning of this election cycle. He was supposed to be the bridge president, and so he should not have even tried to compete a second time, especially knowing what we know now about his health and his cognitive challenges. But the point is that there is a deep state and a stubborn president with very strong allies could not push back. He was the leader of the party, he was the leader of the country, but he was forced to bend the knee to an invisible force. And so Obama now appears like one of those behind the scenes villains who's controlling things. That's so funny. But anyway, it is something to think about. For those of you who are graduate students who are listening to this, this might be a good opportunity to do a paper on the power behind the power or whatever. Anyway, so that is my third takeaway, that apparently there is a deep state/party in the Democratic Party. There is one in the Republican Party too, led by the so-called moderate conservatives, whom Donald Trump has basically crushed. And his victory in the primaries without even debating his opponents, and of course the fortunate incident of him being the attempted assassination and his moment of glory, essentially they probably have destroyed the deep party in the Republican Party. My fourth takeaway is that this is the victory of billionaires. This is the victory of donors in the Democratic Party. So this so-called deep state is essentially first bent its knee to the billionaires. I mean, this whole discussion that donors forced many members of the Congress as well as senators from the Democratic Party to publicly come out and demand that Joe Biden drop out of the race was made by donors. And of course, we even have a name and a face for a prominent fundraiser, George Clooney, who wrote an op-ed in the New York Times, basically asking Joe Biden to drop out. And this message that the donors have sent, that not a penny, I mean, that is the phrase that have been used, not a penny, not just to Biden, but not a penny to any of the Democrats. So shall we say, the organized big money in the Democratic Party, they won. So there are two things that we learn from this fourth takeaway, that American democracy and American political parties, including the Democratic Party, is for sale. I find it actually quite despicable that the coup de grace was something that came from the donors. So public opinion polls didn't matter. Ordinary Americans didn't matter. The fact that 70% of the Democrats felt that Biden was too old, he didn't care for that. The fact that the leaders in the political party said that he didn't look fit, he didn't care for that. The fact that experts and pundits who saw him debate were shocked by his performance, that didn't matter. The thing that broke the camel's back was the donors pulling out. Big money talks. Is changing the history of democracy in American politics. So I am not very happy with all these attempts to make Joe Biden the hero. If you think there is a hero in this whole mess, then they are the billionaires who told Biden he's not going to get a penny if he stays in the race. And what that would have done is the Democratic Party would have lost across the board, and so the Republicans could win the White House, the Senate, and the House itself. So that's why the deep state in the party put pressure on Biden to get out so that they could get money from the donors and at least try to salvage something in the elections. The last thing that I want to say is about polls. So I did just argue that polls did not impress Joe Biden. It was the money that made him step out. But the polls did scare the deep state. The polls did scare the billionaires. So they saw the polling, and of course, it's not just the polls. They saw Joe Biden's performance, and they thought, oh my God, every time he's going to be on TV, he's going to lose voters. Every time he talks, every time he opens his mouth, we would lose votes. So that was very clear. So that and the fact that people were seeing this, and so the polls were reflecting the faux pas and the gaffes that Joe Biden was making repeatedly. And once it was identified after the debate that there is a cognitive problem, which became a sort of a national issue, then everything was being picked up. It is quite possible that if he had introduced Zelensky as Putin or Narendra Modi 5 months ago, nobody would have noticed it. But now it was wall-to-wall coverage for about 24 hours. So his gaffes were being covered 24/7 until his next gaffe. And that is what was driving the polls. So in a very funny way, in a roundabout way, polls did matter in this affair. It's the polls who convinced the donors not to fund Biden. And it is the polls which scared the hell out of down ballot candidates. And they felt that if Biden remains on the top, they would lose. So in that sense, my fifth takeaway is the polls mattered. I hope you found this conversation interesting and thought-provoking. We are going through a very difficult time in American politics, in American democracy. And I hope we come out, and I'm sure we'll come out sooner than later in much better shape than we are at the moment. But a couple of things will have to be done, otherwise we will continue to deteriorate. And that one thing is to reduce the influence of money in the politics. And as long as Citizens United remains a law in this country, I don't think we will be able to achieve that. And the volume of money is stunning. I mean, to tell you that right now Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have $250 million in their bank. That's a lot of money. So anyway, please subscribe to Khanversations, like this video, press the bell icon so that you get notifications of new videos, and don't forget to share this with your socio-political network. Until next time, I'm your host, Muqtedar Khan. Take care.